We are back with another episode of Real Estate Stories. Hey, everybody, we have Michele Cohan.
Good morning.
Good morning, Michele. And I'm Robert Greenblatt. Today, we wanted to jump on real quick, guys. It's the spring market. I know it's March, but it's really the spring market in real estate. We're seeing a lot of the same patterns and trends that we saw last year. Low inventory, lots of buyer interest. And the question just came up in our team meeting is it okay for a buyer to put out offers on multiple properties at the same time? Before we answer that, historically, mean like way back in history, like all the way back, like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, it was not really something that we advised because the market was so different. But now, and lately in the last year or two, we're seeing more and more of that. And this is kind of, guys, this is kind of piggybacking off of a recent video that I made, which talked about a listing that I was servicing that got multiple offers. And as we went through that list and said, okay, hey, buyer number one, you win, or buyer number two, you win. I think we had to go through 5 or 6 of those until we got a buyer that actually said, okay, good. So you can look it up, whatever platform you're watching this on, that video is there. It was only like a week or two ago. And it's an interesting little tale of what's going on. So this is piggybacking on that. So Michele and I were talking about this. Michele works with a ton of buyers on our team, and she's seen this. She has seen it firsthand on the buyer side and on the listing side. So what do you think, Michele? Is it okay for a buyer that you're working with today to put an offer out on more than one property simultaneously?
I say 100% yes. I think it's our responsibility to do that, considering the crazy market that we're in. You know, it's an admin, sometimes nightmare for us.
Yeah.
But I just think it's our responsibility to do it. Look, I can see both sides, the listing and the buyer side. But it's like a dog-eat-dog world out there right now. You know, that's kind of the way I feel. And if they're going to have, let's say we put 5 or 6 out there, and they, you know, the percentages is maybe they'll get accepted for 1 or 2. I think it's okay.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. The question that kind of like we beat up on a team meeting earlier this week was, is it a one-way street or a two-way street with buyers and sellers, right? Because a seller, in most cases in our market right now, is going to receive, we'll say 5 to 25
easy, yeah,
right, offers within one long weekend.
Right.
So if a seller is going to have a bucket of offers to look at and review and make a decision about, but only be able to choose one because it's only one house,
right,
then is it okay for a buyer to basically do the same thing if they're shopping? We had it happen, right? We had it happen. One of our team members was servicing a buyer who's obviously getting frustrated, like a lot of buyers are. You know, people, what we're finding is buyers are getting more flexible in what their wants and their needs are, right? We had a buyer that recently that put, I think, offers on 6 out of 8 homes he saw this weekend. And I think 3 or 4 were actually accepted. Well-qualified buyer, wonderful offers. Now what? Now what, right? So,
but like you said,
yeah.
But like you said, if there's, I don't know, 10 to 20 offers, it's not like if he's accepted for the first one and then he decides against it, there's another one. It just there's plenty of offers out there that the sellers can accept.
So is that fair to a seller?
I think it is. Is it fair to a buyer? You know, what's first, the chicken or the egg? Yes.
No.
No.
So the situation a couple of weeks ago with this other video that I made, here's the part that I thought wasn't fair on the listing side of this. I believe that it's fine to put multiple offers out because, like you said, chances are small. If it's especially if it's a hot property, chances are small that the seller is going to pick this particular offer, right? And buyer needs a house. But here's the issue I had. The issue I had was every time the seller and I reconvened in that scenario and said, okay, buyer number one, I think the property taxes were too high. He got nervous. I can't remember the exact story, but you guys can find the video. But what happened was, in most of those cases, it took a while for those those buyers to get back to me, or buyers agents, I should say, to get back to me. So I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what people are thinking, but I would say that if you're an agent watching this, I implore you, we know the stress we're all going through in this market. I know everybody who's not in real estate says to us, right, Michelle, you're in real estate. That's awesome, right? That's great because real estate market's hot, 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 right? And it is hot, hot, hot. But I can tell you, having been in this for a really long time through ups and downs, it's truthfully more stressful than it has ever been. And I know some of you guys watching this, if you're real estate agents, you have to agree, especially if you've been in this a while and you've seen different markets. So I ask you, in a scenario where we have a multiple offer situation, respond quickly. It took almost 2 weeks for that scenario, in that scenario a couple of weeks ago, for that property to go under contract. And I got all kinds of stories. True, not true, I don't know. But this is a test. I actually think this is a test. We didn't even talk about this prior to going on here, but I think this is a test. I think this is a test of real estate agents being able to maintain professionalism in this pressure cooker that we're in. And I also think, Michelle, that one of the biggest misconceptions in this market is that it's so much easier to work with a listing than it is to work with buyers. And I think that's not true at all.
No, it's not. I think the misconception comes because a listing sells easier than getting a buyer to a listing. But there's still a lot of back things that we have to do as a listing agent, and you really have to be patient with all the phone calls, with all the questions, with, every single offer that you get. Then you have to deal with the sellers themselves, because that's a huge emotional thing that they're leaving their house, and the stress and everything else. So, people have their thoughts about what's easier. It's what you're dealing with every day. Say hello to Jasper, everybody.
Hey, Jasper. Well, at least he's not snoring, right?
No. And then I touched him.
So here's what happened with this team member that was working with this buyer who had made offers on 6 out of 8 properties. So the good news is that he's a very level-headed guy, right? This buyer. And he realizes that there are a lot of homes that can suit his needs, and he's not being overly picky.
Yeah.
But then 3 or 4 offers get accepted. And now he's thinking,
amazing,
which is awesome. I don't know if that's an indication that some things are changing in the market. We'll leave that for a later time and see how this spring starts to play out. But now he's like, well, which one do I like the best? Right. Quick walkthroughs. The truth is, 15-minute walkthrough and we're making a decision, which is the largest purchase of our entire lives. It's kind of the way the industry has always been, but in this market, we don't have a chance to think about it.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, buyers could think about it. So now they're making offers knowing that I can make this home work or that home work or that home work, right? But I don't know, so I think he did make a decision, and I think that's in the process of moving forward, and I'm super happy for him. But I know we're kind of a little all over the place, but I think that ultimately it is acceptable. I guess the thing we have to watch out for is so typically in our area, right? Typically, most offers are put together on a proposal to purchase form. Right. There's a few different versions of them, but that's the gist of it. The proposal to purchase form, which is a 1-page document typically, and it just has some basic information on there. It often gets signed by the buyer, but not always. It is what it is. And that document is not binding. it kind of looks somewhat official, but it's not a binding document, even though there's verbiage that says, hey, this offer must be accepted within whatever, 1 day, 2 days, 5 days. It's still not a binding enforceable document. However, every so often, an offer is placed in the form of a sales contract. So a buyer's agent will prepare a full agreement of sale with all the terms and conditions for that particular buyer. The buyer will sign it. They sometimes will give us a copy of an escrow check to show how serious they are. And that 8 to 10 to 12 page sales contract becomes the offer. Right. And that gets sent to the listing agent. Now, that's another conversation. There's other stuff there. Some listing agents don't want them in the form of a contract. Some brokerages advise their agents to only put proposals in the form of a contract. So we're not going to go there. I'm not those decision makers. I just play by whatever the rules are, right? That's what we do. But if you put an offer out there in the form of a sales contract, all the seller has to do is sign off on it. Then you have a valid contract, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where I think a buyer's agent has to be extra careful.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? If you have a buyer that's interested in multiple properties and you're doing it in the form of a sales contract.
Sales contract.
Well, yeah. What if 3 sellers signed the contract?
Yeah.
Then you probably need an attorney to kill 2 out of 3 of those in the attorney review period. Kind of an odd scenario. It probably doesn't happen that often, but I just thought I'd throw it out there, especially for some of you guys who might be newer agents really trying to figure out this whole market and the best strategies.
Knock wood, I haven't come in contact with too many of those. For me, the proposal to purchase is perfect. And I know for you the same.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's I think it's the quickest and cleanest strategy, and I think that on the receiving end, as a seller's agent, they're easy to interpret. Some of the teams and busier agents in this area have adopted online systems or created their own online system. So it kind of, you fill out an online form and then it kind of funnels into a master spreadsheet on their end, which I think is a great idea. It's something that we're looking into. But the stress involved in making sure that everything is absolutely perfect when you're trying to decipher, 25 offers on a property, make sure that the seller has all their information. Yes, you will have a deal sooner rather than later when you're a listing agent in this market. But the amount of stress that goes on in getting to that point is huge, unlike anything I've ever seen in my career.
I agree.
Yeah. But all we can do is just keep rolling with it, right?
That's what we do.
All right. Well, Michele, thank you for joining us this morning.
Yep.
As always, everybody watching this, if you want to know more, whether you're a consumer or whether you're an agent that would just like to learn a little bit more about EXP and why it is the Amazon of real estate, all our information is below. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.